Okay, hello. So today, the 19th of November, we'll make two presentations here. One by the way of an important cell biologist who received a Nobel Prize in, I think, 1976, Dr. Palade. And by the way of him, I thought of talking about architecture and cell biology. And afterwards, we'll talk about another celebration which takes place today. But let's begin with this. I want to say at the beginning, I'm not an expert in biology, and certainly not in cell biology, but I am inspired by aesthetically by some of the things connecting to relating to cell biology. And by the way of this, I will talk about architecture. And I think it's very possible to create bridges between architecture and cell biology. So this is an homage to Dr. George Emil Palade, a Romanian-American researcher who achieved remarkable results in his quest for trying to decipher the mystery of life in a way. What else is biology? He died in 2008. So cell biology, what do we know about cell biology? Well, if we look at the human cell, it's a whole universe. If William Shakespeare was right that the whole world is here, we could say that the whole world is in this very cell, and it's very possible it is so. Now you see there are all kinds of names there around the cell, but this scientific naming is actually trying to approximate a mystery. You know, how did life come into being? Why are things as they are? I have the highest respect for these scientists who, in a very poetical way, actually plunge into the mystery of life. And just like artists with different means, they approach the unknown, because it is about this, about the unknown. So let's see in what way this could be relevant to architecture. What do we read here? Microtubules, mitochondrion, centriole, vesicle, cytosol, rough endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes. By the way, Dr. Palade discovered the ribosomes. He was the one who discovered them, and apparently this was a very important discovery. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum, plasma membrane, flagellum, lysosome, Golgi complex, chromatin, nuclear envelope, nuclear pore, nucleolus. All these words, intimidate me because they are indeed scientific and they seem esoteric. But they do the same thing, just like abstract art tries to visualize the unknown. Here, the scientists, through these discoveries, do the same thing through their own means. Look again, it's a mysterious thing. Now, of course, it's a human approximation, a visual human approximation, but it has its importance. And I would say it even has its beauty. I wonder if we cannot make buildings kind of, similar to what we look at here. In a way we do sometimes, only sometimes. Anyway, we will see some examples, which I try to find in a hurry to honor Dr. Palade with a possible relationship between cell biology and architecture. Now you will see 3D images of cell biology. And they are fascinating because they are very complex, they are very poetical, they are chromatic, they are sometimes turbulent. One could imagine seeing here the cosmos, but it's not the cosmos, it's quite the opposite. It's, the inside the cell. So it is entirely true what William Shakespeare said, The whole world is here, and it's here in the smallest thing, in a cell. And so between cosmos, between what is outside and what is inside, is almost a non-existent frontier. Look at this. How could this be inside a cell? You know, I mean, it could also be very well, you know, some kind of a, you know, cosmic event, some kind of a, you know, psychedelic happening in the skies. Well, it's not. It's in the cell. It's an image of the cell, and so is this one. And I find them splendid, and I find them very inspiring. I don't know what they mean. I could learn what they mean, but they seduce me with their beauty and with their complexity. And I wonder why our architecture is not similarly so, and very rarely it is so. Why? Maybe because sometimes we forget what life means. Life is not simple, it's complex. Now, of course, you can achieve simplicity as a high goal, and it is a high goal. You know, many people thought so, but you must go through the complexity of matter in order to arrive at a simplicity which is not simplistic. It's a great difference between what is simple and what is simplistic. We should strive towards what is simple, but try to avoid what is simplistic. I mean, the complexity of matter is unbelievable. I mean, these are images just of a cell, you know, and indeed, I see the whole world in it. They perplex me and they attract me. These images attract me. And it is miraculous in a way that with the technology of today, we were able to visualize, you know, very intimate, very discrete, very small portions of something that in itself is immensely small, if I can say so, and that is the cell. How would an architecture inspired by these images look like? Well, it's a question. I'm going to show a few works that, in my opinion, could connect with these beautiful images. These are images generated not by artists, but by scientists, trying to visualize, to go deeper and deeper and deeper in their studies, in their research, in their analysis, and look at what they arrive. And it's magnificent. In my opinion, it's magnificent. I'm going to show later images of proteins, 3D images of proteins. They are ravishing. I mean, aesthetically ravishing. So are these images. That, to me, they are very, very inspiring. If we could do such an architecture, equally splendid, we would live in paradise here. A paradise which is not only God-made, but also man-made. So, by the way of Dr. Palade, we arrive at these beautiful, beautiful artworks, which are not artworks, but so-called objective representations or visualizations of objective realities within the cell. They are not renderings, fantastic renderings. They are you know, this is how things are. And we recorded them through the technology that we have. Now look here, why can't we make an urbanism as modestly organic as this one is? Look here, each part is a little bit different, and yet they are similar. There is a unity here, and there is also multiplicity. It humbles me to contemplate this drawing in black and white. Why can't we work like this? You know, why are we so trapped into a simplistic repetition? Why can't we understand that organic matter doesn't function, you know, based on a T-square and a rectangle, to talk, you know, in terms of the old means of drawing architecture? There is something very beautiful and very modest also here. We see the modesty of nature in this, you know, composite representation of various cells associating themselves, contributing together to an organism. And there are so many inspirations coming from nature, both the seen one and the unseen one. And I think again that the artist and the scientist, they both search for the unknown. And if we forget this in architecture, that it is the role of the architect to discover the unknown and to stay away from the known, from the deadly, dusty known. Just as the scientist searches for new realms to be discovered, the architect should do the same. Otherwise, architecture becomes a very boring and unnecessary, I would say, activity. Now, Dr. Palade discovered apparently the ribosomes or the ribosomes. What exactly they are, I looked at some information. I'm going to, approximate some kind of an explanation. So you see here the discovery of ribosomes. Ribosomes first appeared under the electron microscope as dense granules, or they are called particles, and they actually called the Palade particles. This discovery was made in the mid-50s by Romanian cell biologist George Palade. Bravo to him. Born in Iași, in Romania. Now, the Palade particles, it's hard for me to verbalize anything of substance here, so I will just be silent, but I can comment on what I see in the same spirit as I try to say a few things on the previous black and white image, that there is a discrete organic quality in what I look at that I hope will inspire also our work in architecture. The scientists call this spontaneous order. When we cerebralize through our architectural means, architecture, we do not achieve the spontaneous order that nature has. Very rarely we do so. So ribosomes are, I'm not sure I pronounce correctly, ribosomes, anyway, you can pronounce it your way. You see how it is written, are structures in cells made of, now I don't know what this one is either, rRNA, the first R small, which have the job of manufacturing proteins. And the proteins, again, I value them aesthetically, they are magnificent, at least in their 3D representations, and we are going to see some of them. Look at this. Now, those who are afraid of chaos, they do not understand that actually life is based on this so-called chaos, but it's not chaos, it's spontaneous order. We are so entrapped in a simplistic cerebrality that we cannot conceive that actually nature works in this way, and it does. Now, my question is, how could we make an architecture that relates to what we look at now? We'll call this chaos. No, it's chaos. Well, it's not chaos. It's a different kind of order, what the scientists now call the spontaneous order. It could be called in a different way. Look here. These are ribosomes. But, don't ask me to explain because I can't. But I look at this image and it inspires me. It inspires me towards a beautifully complex architecture that is doesn't reject, even deviant forms of manifestation, doesn't reject color, doesn't reject, turmoil or twisting or all kinds of things that we look at right now. And you hear simplify, model, and molecular. Now look from the first to the third, it's a process of amplification of complexity. And I'm afraid that, you know, the architecture still dwells in old forms of manifestation. Now, it's true, you know, there might be necessary to have a distance between nature and the work of man. They don't have to be identical. But I think still a good work is a work which doesn't turn its back on nature. And this is the nature within, is the nature, the so-called unseen nature, but it exists. Look, there are mysterious things. You could say this is something in the cosmic space. It's not. It's within our body, in a little cell. You know, there are incredible things there. I know my words are banal and maybe inadequate, but I express what I feel more than what I think. There are beautiful things happening within us. It's a cosmos indeed within us. The whole world is here, as William Shakespeare said, and it is so. We don't need to go to Mars or to the moon, Mr. Musk. We don't. The moon and Mars are within us. Look here again. You know, who made these things? And this again, it's microbiology. This is extremely tiny. Design. Now I begin to show some works, and then we'll come back to other images coming from science. Designer and architect Jenny Sabin, an architect I learned about just you know, when I started to prepare this material. Look what she does. It's very related to what we looked at before. This is bioarchitecture in a way. She's not the only one who works in this way. But I show this image because this image should make us understand that the world is much more complex and much more beautiful than our little rectangles or squares. You know, I mean, in what way are we honoring the world that we just saw, just the world of the cells? This is the architect designer. She seems to be, you know, witty and, you know, creative, and bravo to her. You know, I mean, I say it all the time, architecture is beautiful if it is an adventure. If it is not an adventure, it's not beautiful. This is an adventure. What she does here is an adventure. It's not yet architecture as we know it, but it's a contribution to architecture from the side, but it's a beautiful side, so to speak. Anyway, this is also what she did, you know, and again, what we see in this parapet for a stair is somehow related to the cell biology. And we are going to see other things that, in my opinion, are inspiring, trying to connect the unseen complexity and beauty of nature with architecture. So let's read about her, what this Inga Saffron wrote, architecture critic for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jenny Sabin is intensely interested in the structures that support our buildings, but she finds her inspiration in the most unlikely places. Through her studies of immensely strong natural forms and networks, including cancer cells, and her collaborations with scientists, she's developing ways to build more resilient structures. She's not the only one who does this sort of thing. This is her practice called Lab Studio, design research between architecture and biology. And what you see behind is a structure that she herself built. But you see, that structure is both ornamental and structural. It functions as a structure, but it's also ornamental and thus beautiful. And this is something I think many people have to learn to do. You know, in what way can we make a structure which is also ornamental? Now, I will show a work from Poland. I discovered, you know, the work of a team. It's just one project by them, which was realized that attracted my attention. They call their office Narchitectura, from nature and architecture. So they try to combine nature with architecture, and they arrived at this word, architectura, in Poland. And they did this. I like the image very much because I think it's very poetical. And you see this is actually spontaneous order. They are freely placed here. They seem to be without so-called organization, but actually they have an inner organization. So it's some kind of a mixture between disorder and order, which I find very stimulating. And it's in a park. We are going to see. You see, it's here. And I think they did a very nice work here. It's a small work. It's modest, but I think it's very poetical, and it functions. And again, it's about this other kind of order, which is not cerebral, which is more instinctual in a way, and it connects, in my opinion, with the apparent disorder within the cell that we looked at. All those images of cells, they also would have made one think this is not order. Come on, everything is ordered in nature. Even the arrival of tempests or the rain, everything is interconnected in a very mysterious and in a very complex way. If we could somehow bring to earth the inspirations that come from nature, from so many fields, both within ourselves and within the structure even of the bark of the tree, the structure of a leaf of a tree, anything that is produced in nature is actually interconnected with everything else. And here you see the project that they did, these people, and I like the playfulness of this arrangement, which is, falling, so to speak, on the ground, just like the leaves of the tree fall on the ground when the wind blows. I guess I discovered this work on this platform, Future Architecture platform. Anyway, if you want to make a screenshot of this or whatever, anyway, I recorded. So there are interesting things you can find on the web. This is a detail of one of those things on the floor, on the ground, and in itself, you would say there is some kind of a grid here. Yes, but look at it. It's not rigid. It's delicate. It's discrete. It's rhythmical, but again, it's not oppressive. So it's some kind of a lyrical geometry at work here. Personally, I see even here something somehow biological, although the forms are not organic in that explicit sense. Now, biomimetic architecture. What is biomimetic architecture? Well, the example I found is with the immensely admired and known Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Look at this. It's a splendid work from many points of view. These people in Barcelona understood that they cannot continue the work of Antoni Gaudí just by repeating ad literam what he did. So yes, they continue the work of Gaudí, but with the language of today and with the means of today. And it is indeed a biomimicry here, is a bioarchitecture in a way. And I think it's magnificent. In my opinion, is one of the great buildings of our time, which are erected collectively by a city, a proud city, and a city which knows something about art and architecture. And it's this splendid effort to honor God, because this is what a cathedral is, as creatively as possible. And representing our time. We are in the 21st century. We are not in the 19th century, not in the 17th, not even in the 20th. We are in the 21st century. And this is what we see here. You say, well, what's the relationship with the cell biology? Personally, I see it. I see it with the eye. I see it. When I look at the ceiling, I see it. It's a biological ceiling. It's organic and yet in a way strange, and there is some kind of there is a strangeness in this building, which derives perhaps exactly the otherness of the building derives exactly from the fact that somehow it visualizes the unknown. Look at the ceiling here. We have a few points of reference, like this stained glass window and a little bit here, but as a whole, the new additions to the great work by Antoni Gaudí, this is a contemporary work, highly contemporary and highly provocative, and I would say highly beautiful. So it is possible to bring complexity in architecture, and to, even if you don't do it necessarily in an obstinate way or explicit way, in my opinion, this building is able to say something about a new marriage between art and science. Although you will say, what does science have to do with the cathedral? It does. It does. It's part of today's life. And, I don't think there is and there shouldn't be a great schism between the work of science and the work of art. In the Middle Ages, in fact, the two collaborated. They worked together. And that's how the great cathedrals of the Middle Ages came into being. Here, the same way. It's a great work, and it's still in the process of becoming, but I don't think there can be anyone who could say, no, this doesn't interest me, it's not interesting. No, it is. It is. Anyway, but look at this. I'm absolutely sure Dr. Palade and other many doctors in this world and scientists would love it. It is a celebration of life, and a celebration of the tiniest cell, and the celebration of cosmos. Done here on the earth, as it should be. And I don't think, again, that we should leave the earth in the darkness of the cosmos for 6 or 8 months in order to arrive in a place where we cannot come back from, and which has no gravity and not enough oxygen and so on. There is so much to do here on the earth. Why don't we do it? Barcelona is showing us a way. If we could build in the whole, this is a psychedelic cathedral. You could have an incredible, I mean, sorry, I know I could be accused of blasphemy, but I think you could have again, I hesitate. Should I say it or I should abstain? I don't know, but I felt like saying you could have a great disco in this in Sagrada Familia, because it brings out from you exuberance. It's an exuberant building. It's a psychedelic building. Why should we have a relationship with God that is morose and predictable? Why can't actually, in the act of celebrating life, implicitly we also celebrate the building, I mean, through the building that we erect, the one that we offer it to, because it's our offering. The humans build this work. If this work is paying homage to, again, to the cell, the little cell that we saw images of, but also to the entire cosmos. Now we arrive at a very interesting creator, an architect, Philippe Bisley from Canada, and I only show a few images from his pavilion, the Canadian pavilion at the Venice Biennial, I think in 2010. It's remarkable what this man did. Unfortunately, this installation that you are going to see is one thing, and the buildings he built are another thing. But I guess it's very difficult to actually make an architecture like this pavilion that you are going to see now. The Canadian pavilion at the Venice Biennial in 2010. Look at this. This is supposed to actually be organic and alive. Look at this, you know, and I ask myself, why is it that architecture in general, mainstream architecture included, stay away from something like this? This is the man, the architect and artist, but he was trained as an architect. And I think he does very, very interesting things. And there is a student in the university in Bucharest who had an internship with him for almost a year. I forgot, in Montreal or in Toronto. Look at this. In my opinion, between those beautiful images of cells and the beautiful images of Sagrada Familia and the beautiful image that we look at now is a very close relationship. This was not created by God, inasmuch as Sagrada Familia was not created by God. They were both, and they are both created by man, but a very imaginative man. Look at this. Done with matter. This is not a drawing. We are going to see drawings a little bit later on, but this is, you know, physical work. It is a concrete work done with matter. It's alchemical, it's strange. You wonder, how did he build this? Because it is built, it's manufactured. And I think these things move. I'm not sure if they move independently or reacting to someone moving through the space. They are alive.
They look like wings, actually. Maybe they move independently.
Like what?
Like wings, the wings of a bird.
Yeah, they do have, yes, something of wings. But you see here is the whole alchemy here and the electricity. Well, these are actually mechanisms that they change. You see this, they are interrelated. The complexity is unbelievable. And, you know, it does relate to me in my imagination and for my eye to those incredible complexities within the tiniest cell. You can find, of course, much more information on the web. This is just, you know, a short, you know, suggestion in a way towards further study, because he is a very interesting creator of our time. I know it looks cryptical, it looks strange, it looks wild in a way. You know, what is this? But a contemporary of ours, a contemporary man of our time, I mean, what am I saying? Of course, this is of our time, if it's contemporary, sorry, conceived it and built it. And I chose this image among the others also because I have a difficult time to understand why architecture restricts itself to a very simplistic language, when in fact the richness of nature and the richness of such works, either Sagrada Familia or this one, suggest to us that there is much more else to discover and to work with. Now, the George Palade laboratories, there is a laboratory at the University of California in San Diego, which bears his name, because he was the dean of science, of the science department or something like this, and he brought glory to that department through his activity. And now the whole laboratory, which apparently is one of the best in the United States and the world, bears its name. You will see a picture of the building. Now the building is not so interesting as what we looked at before, but anyway, bears the name, George Palade. So let's read a little bit about it. Located on the School of Medicine campus, the George Palade laboratories function as the home of the Department of Cellular and Molecular Medicine and house a number of the department's groundbreaking research facilities and patient testing resources. The building is named after Dr. George Palade, who is widely known as the father of modern cell biology. A Nobel Prize laureate, Dr. Palade was appointed as the School of Medicine's first Dean of Scientific Affairs in 1990 and went on to co-found the Department of Cellular and Molecular Medicine. Here he is receiving the Nobel Prize, a very handsome man, as handsome as another glorious intellectual, this time a conductor, a musician, also born in Iași, Celibidache, two great minds and great creators coming from Moldavia and from this beautiful city, Iași. Bravo, bravo to them. So it's possible. Here he is on a timber, you know, George Emil. Actually, in my announcement, I wrote wrongly, Emil George Palade. I guess that's because of my own troubles with my own name. No, it's George Emil Palade. So the first name is George, not Emil. Okay, now searching for cell architecture or architecture and molecular biology or architecture and cell biology, I came across some images. I just threw them in without sufficient reflection, but just for a while, and then we'll see two more, in my opinion, important works relating to the theme. What we see here again is a distortion of the Cartesian frame in the name of nothing else but life. Because if you bring in disorder, so-called disorder, and you create some kind of a difficult marriage between order and disorder, you could obtain interesting things. Sometimes it's not easy. Now again, we have illustrations or renderings of what's going on inside the cell, you know, or in a society of cells, whatever. These images to me are cosmic images. I mean, I could very well imagine this is the Earth somehow, and this is outside of the Earth. But all of this is happening actually inside a very tiny, very tiny, microscopically almost insignificant part of an organism. But I see here the whole cosmos. And again, I think of Shakespeare's words. Now, I'll show you some 3D structures of proteins, which always fascinated me. I think they are beautiful. Albumin, ovalbumin, lactoglobulin, lysosome, insulin. Anyway, look at them. And they are, I think they could inspire an incredibly beautiful architecture. Yes, they were recorded with technological tools of the present, but they always existed. And why is it that God didn't work with the T-square and the rectangle? Why? Look, what is this? I don't know what it is. It's in the structure of the protein, but you know, the rigidly and morose, rigidly educated and rigidly functioning architect will say this is not structure. Well, it is. It's the structure of nature. It's the structure of proteins. This one as well. Well, try to imagine an architecture inspired by something like this. We could call it a psychedelic architecture, or we could call it beautiful Islamic architecture, because if you look at some incredible work done in old mosques, you see something not very dissimilar. I didn't include any of those works here, but in my opinion, these are very, very inspiring. And why do I mention the proteins? Because the proteins are produced by those ribosomes, or how are they called, that Dr. Palade discovered. So these are 3D structures of proteins. Now, I want to say one more time, why is it that we cannot create an architecture as colorful, as vital, as vigorous, as fluid, as intertwined and interesting and unpredictable as what we look at now? Why? Okay, now I'll show some works of this young architect, a project she did for, I showed this before, but I don't know if you saw it, an academy, a tattoo academy in Melbourne, in Australia, because I think her work connects to everything, to most of what I said before. I know Shakira Hamad, we collaborated for some years, and I think she's a very talented and very interesting young architect. She did these pencil drawings. Now, if you look at this drawing and you remember the first images of cell biology, they are very similar in spirit, but she didn't copy them. She just drew, you know, what she felt within herself. These are pencil drawings. These are not done with you know, software. They're done, you know, pencil on paper. You see the signature in the left lower corner, and they're amazing in a way. They're so minute, so detailed, so intricate, and what we look at here is truly biology. Maybe with a touch of slight anxiety, but this was done by a human being, not by God. This was not made by the omnipotent God. This was made by a young woman, architect, and artist, who drew this by hand. And I think this is our chance as humans to respond to the incredible complexity of the world and of nature through our own creativity, through our own imagination. There is a whole universe right here. Look how many mysterious things are happening just here. And this is a small fragment of the drawing. You know, it's right here. So what we look at is just a fragment of a larger drawing, but not very large. I don't know exactly the size, but I guess around, at the most probably, you know, I don't know, 50 centimeters by 70 centimeters, something like this. Afterwards, we are going to see her project in Melbourne, which is also incredibly detailed and with lots of intricacies. I love these drawings. And again, they are done with pencil on paper. I like to imagine that Dr. Palade would have liked it too. And look at this also. You know, you would say, you know, what is this? It's some kind of a, you know, an image captured through, you know, high technology of some tissue in nature. No, it's a handmade drawing by pencil by a sensitive young architect and artist, who is now in New York working in architecture. In my opinion, Shakira here descended into the mystery of the world, or maybe her inner life, into her psychological life, into, I don't know, but it's truly about descending. And once you descend and descend and descend, and you discover there riches that you at first didn't know at all, they are there. The unknown essentially. Some of these drawings were also born from suffering, but suffering because she had a terrible accident. For a few years, she was, badly damaged in a car accident and immobilized at home. And look, you can transcend suffering through creativity. Now, this is the architectural work which I'm going to show, which is done by her, the Melbourne Tattoo Academy, Warp and Woof. And this is the project. She did this project after she graduated at the Institute of Architecture in Vienna, postgraduate study there in the program Excessive, where they learn for 1 semester and a half Maya, and then the other 1 semester and a half they did their thesis or their diploma work. And this is a very, very, as you can see, it's architectural knitting or basketry. To make something like this rigorously is immensely difficult. I mean, I know I cannot do it. I couldn't do it. It's not yet architecture. It's a suggestion of what could be a woven architecture. Woven architecture is, yes, architectural basketry. The suggestion of the plan and a section at the top. This horizontal plane here is a little bit, in my opinion, problematic for this kind of organic work. But this aside, I think she did a very interesting work. And, there is fluidity here, but it is a segmented fluidity. It's very different from the fluidities of Zaha Hadid, for example. And it's very intricate and very complex and visceral, but it's basketry, essentially. It's knitting. Can you make a building like you make a sweater? I don't know. Although it's possible in old villages in Africa and in traditional societies, that's kind of how they built. Well, not with this kind of aesthetics, but handmade things were done, at least conceptually in this way. Although the word conceptual is, I should not have used it. I didn't reproduce here her theoretical text that accompanied the project, which made references to, to cells, to biology, to even to indigenous art in Australia, and to spontaneous order, the world of science. And look what she did. Again, this sort of thing cannot be done with the T-square and the rectangle, nor with the mentality that the T-square and the rectangle, makes possible. No. It is as if you are entering the world of the cells that we looked at the beginning somehow. But towards the outside, you also have the knot. And this is a knot. Very dense and very intricate. Just like the scientist, the artist searches for the unknown. Here, Shahira searched for the unknown in her own way, with her own tools. Dr. Palade did the same with his own tools and his own way. He used the microscope. Shahira used her intuitions and her, ability to use Maya. They use different tools, Dr. Palade used the microscope. Shakira Hamad used the, the software, Maya, and her intuitions as an artist, as an architect. But they both search for the same thing, the unknown. And this unknown is actually connected with beauty, both in the case of, although this was not his purpose, I'm sure Dr. Palade didn't have aesthetical, goals or concerns, but somehow the work of science and the work of art, each one using its own specificities, its own tools, its own concerns and goals and interests, they somehow meet. And they meet, I would say, under the dome of what I call beauty. And these are just studies, but I find them extremely stimulating and interesting. Anyway, moving forward, because I'm going to show you a very surprising and a beautiful building built in Spain by an architect who deserves attention, and I would say a lot of attention. Okay, goodbye, Shakira Hamad. And now the erosion of the monolith, because I think the world of the cells and the biology of the cell inevitably make us think of possibilities to erode the monolith and the simplistic mentalities that think in a monolithical way. Look here, we have a prism actually, right? This is a prism, but it is a prism which becomes problematized by the fragmentation, the intense fragmentation of its sides. So the sides of the prism become almost fabrics, almost textiles, and thus, in my opinion, they are kind of cellular. Talking. Maybe rather metaphorically, but I like this idea to transform a prism, the rigid geometry of a prism, into something that is porous and is almost textile and woven. This was just intermezzo. I like this image because it's about weaving. But it's almost like about weaving biologically. So there is a relationship between the world of cells and the world of weaving. And now we arrive at a work which was done, I forgot, in Finland or in Sweden or somewhere. It's digital ceramics, polymorph, which no, it's I see polymorph is the same. It is very interesting because here I am ending with the beginning. It's Jenny Sabin. I didn't even read this. She built this. You remember the first designer architect that I showed on this presentation? She did this work. Bravo to her. And I'm even happy that I included this picture without actually knowing that it is done by her. And you see, it is a connection with the cells. It is a connection with Sagrada Familia. It is a connection with Shakira Hamad. And I don't know if there is a connection with the last architect I will show, although there is, because he uses ceramic tiles, but not in such an organic and complicated, so-called complicated way. But it also connects with Philip Beasley. Yes. An interesting work, and I love these artists and architects who in a way rediscover life, rediscover the world, recreate the world actually through their own imagination and hard work and intuitions and the tools that they have at their disposal. Okay, now neat datascapes. This is also a work by her, which obviously is very much connected with the life, the inner life of the tiny cells that we looked at before. And now we arrive at at an interesting work done at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, at the Public School One. This is now a museum of Modern Art in New York, but this is in Queens, and it's a school which became a branch of the museum, which is in Manhattan. Biodegradable hi-fi by the living opens, well, it opened, it was some years ago. Let me read a little bit about it. The project comprises a circular tower of organic and reflective bricks made from a biodegradable material conceived by the Living's principal. The Living is the company, the firm or the office, David Benjamin. Using a pioneering method of biodesign, the structure is formed entirely of organic matter, integrating biological technologies alongside advanced computer-based engineering. Through diverting the natural carbon cycle, the scheme requires no energy and produces zero carbon emissions. The organic blocks are manufactured through a combination of discarded corn stalks and specially developed living root-like structures from mushrooms. And look at the structure. It's encouraging to know and to think and to see that you can create something new which is also somehow visually related to all structures, but this is done with organic matter. And these bricks are done for me in a mysterious way. So the highest technology is united with maybe the primeval intuitions, and the result is this. Bravo to them. Again, the relationship between architecture and other disciplines is extremely important, and they inform each other. Here you have function, but you also have form, and you have, yes, there is some kind of a spontaneous order here as well, because not everything seems to be rigidly, crystallized or configured. And this is just an experiment in a way, I don't know what they are doing now, but I find it very interesting and very stimulating. Now, we end the presentation with this remarkable work, and truly remarkable, Villa Nurps Empuria Brava by Eric Ruiz Gelli. I don't know if I probably don't pronounce his name very well, and I apologize. Let me try again. Eric Ruiz Gelli, I don't know. He's from Spain, but a very, very interesting architect, and this villa will surprise you. Villa Nurps. Look at this. And I don't know for how long he worked on this building, but it's one of the most original houses built in the, maybe for the past 25 years or so. And these are ceramic tiles, and they made me think of the cells that I was beginning with the presentation. They are ceramic tiles, but we'll see more of it. The building is very futuristic. Yes, it's you don't actually know. Did it come from space, and did it land here on the Earth? It's an incredible work. And look at these tiles. They are all a little bit different. And the way he covered the body of the building with them is astonishing. So what we see here is a human being, just like me and you and him and her, doing a creative work, and thus in a way repeating what God a long time ago did with his own means. God created those tiny, complex beauties called the cells. Now, this Spanish architect, did this work. This was not done by God. This was done by him, by a human being. And I still see here, I see here biology, I see life, I see beauty, I see mystery, I see organic matter, I see abstraction, I see technology, I see science, I see art, I see everything. You know, look, you know, this structure here is not simplistic, it's complex, it's difficult. But look at the building, even during construction, he looked amazing. Every single part contributes to the whole, and every single part you can see is distinct from the next every single part. It's a very complex work and very precise, and yet lyrical, and somehow look at this cell-like you know, ceramic tiles that he covers the building with. Of course, for doing something like this, you need either half a century to be like the old builders of the old mosques, or with the technology of today, you can shorten significantly the time. But it's a complex work which testifies about the complexity of the natural world. And maybe the cosmos itself looks with envy at the work done in Spain by this architect. We don't know. We don't know, but we can learn. Why did he complicate himself? Because the pragmatic one would say, why did he complicate himself? Well, why did God complicate himself? Because you saw those cells, how intricate and complex they are. Why did God make things in that way? And everything in nature is like this. Just the bark of a tree and it has an immense complexity just on that bark. So I admire this architect and I admire this building, and I will end this, you know, sketchy presentation of a subject which deserves much more attention and you know, development. And now, since today is also the birthday of a Peruvian architect who became famous together with his wife in the United States, allow me to present his work as well. It's not a big presentation in terms of the number of slides I have, but I think we can say something about him. Although I have to say, he is not one of my favorite architects, but he was, I mean, the firm he established did some works which were very noticed. So Bernardo Fort Brescia, I think he was born in Peru, and together with his wife. So Miami-based architecture office Arquitectonica, headed by Lorinda Sper, and Bernardo Fort Brescia has been selected as the 2019 winner of the American Prize for Architecture. The firm, known for its trend-setting modernist Miami style, was launched back in 1977. Here they are. She is American and he was from Peru. He is from Peru, but they both live and work now in the States. I actually attended a lecture by them at Columbia University in New York in the early 90s. Okay, the Babylon, Miami. It's a building, you know, without the complexity of the cells that we just saw, but or with the complexity of the last work built in Spain. But it's a luminous, colorful, you know, rather hedonistic building in Miami. And yes, their work is, you know, it's modernistic, but you could say that there are some touches of what we call postmodernism. I don't know if I have in this presentation the latest works. I probably do some. I don't know very well what they are doing now. But I show some works connected with the evolution of Architectonica. And happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to you, sir. Bernardo first for the Brescia. Here is the building from the side. So the reddish elevation is just towards the street. And it is whitish on the long facade. Here is the plan. Sorry that the resolution is not great, but you can still see something. No, they are good architects. For my taste, a little bit predictable and commercial, but joyously so, I would say. I can see that king size bed or queen size bed in many rooms. These are large beds, but I guess not everybody lives in this building. Anyway, Miami. The Atlantis, Biscayne Bay in Miami. At that time, in the end of the 20th century, they were building such things, and the exuberance of South America was brought to, although Miami had for the upper classes its own exuberance, but here is something different. So there is a homo ludens at work here, for those so-called accents, very colorful within the rather rationalistic prism. Here, maybe one can see certain references to L'Unité d'Habitation by Le Corbusier. All in all, is, I guess, moderately pleasant architecture. And color helps. It does. Now, maybe more in under the sunlight of Miami. This is something Zaha didn't assume as courageously as she assumed other fields of architecture. He didn't use too much color, and sometimes the excessive whiteness of her buildings bothers me, because I don't think architecture is just about space and fluidities. Anyway, this, by the way, of the 1000 museum, or what is called that building, the address of that tower in Miami, that she actually I think she died in Miami. So it's impossible to talk about architecture in Miami without remembering that Zaha died there. Anyway, yes, it's a hedonistic architecture, the one promoted and built by Architectonica. But it has some qualities, although I say it again, they are not my favorite architects. And I remember after the lecture I attended by them at Columbia University, I wrote kind of a reply apropos of Architectonica's lecture. And I said, because they also, they had a shop, they were selling plates and other things. So they were not doing just architecture. But there is some, this joie de vivre manifested through ephemerality, like, selling plates and things like this, made me a little bit, question the validity of their architecture as well. Anyway, Banque de Luxembourg, headquarters in Luxembourg. Yes, it's another building, a modernistic building. What can I say? Is it great? I wouldn't say it's great, but I have seen worse buildings than this one. That's why I said the works of Architectonica are rather, commercial in general, but here and there they have some interesting things. Maybe I should have started with this presentation and then end with with cell architecture, but anyway, here is the plan. A little bit ostentatious, that conference room with the conference table there, you know, exiting so dramatically and so, you know, in a burlesque way, the, you know, the prismatic body of the building otherwise. Anyway, they did it. Now, Virgin Voyages cruise terminal at Port Miami. I think this is a project which was not finalized, meaning it was not built. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't. Icon Bay, another, this is an apartment building for, you know, for the same kind of people that populate the tower built by Zaha Hadid. That is not the poor of Miami, but the rich of Miami. I guess it's okay. Why not? So a tower can be built in many ways, so it can be built in this way as well. Many architects of fame build now in Miami. You can find Bjarke Ingels, you can find the Herzog of de Moron, you can find Zaha Hadid, and so on. All building for the same kind of clientele, of course. Landmark East Office development. Yes, again, why not? But lots of glass again. All this architecture cannot be done with a lot of glass. Look here too, a lot of glass, 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 and glass again. Long live glass, the true king of, well, until now, because now we are beginning to question a little bit so much glassness, if I am to play with the words. Do you see any open window here? No, of course not. Do you think that this building would be alive without air conditioning? No way. That's it. So no, there is more, sorry. University of Miami, Miami Architecture School, kind of interesting, but play with form and with concrete. But, you know, it has some ability, some virtuosity, but I don't know. I mean, again, it can be done in this way, and it can be done in many ways. They did it in this way. Mr. Brescia, with Arquitectonica, his office. A School of International and Public Affairs in Miami, sketch. But the building was built. Again, why not? It could be in this way, or it could be in some other ways. So the cantilever, the part is here. Yeah, lately we have seen very dramatic cantilevered portions of buildings. one of the most audacious is by Santiago Calatrava in Rio de Janeiro. I don't know, almost 80 meters long. Green space, but it's not so much a space, but a surface, actually. The top of the cantilever part, the auditorium.
It looks really impressive.
Yeah, Regalia condominiums, Sunny Isles Beach, Florida. There are many variations of this kind of tower where, you know, through balconies, you create some kind of a fluidity on the facade. Perhaps the most famous is Agua by Ginny Gang, by Studio Gang. And we had a chance to have her here on Zoom in March when it was her birthday. And she was very kind to spend with us almost 2 hours on her very birthday. You can see the recording of that presentation on YouTube, Ginny Gang. And her Agua Tower, if you don't know it, I suggest you look. In fact, I somehow feel that you know, this building is derived from what she did in Chicago, the Agua Tower, Ginny Gang or Studio Gang. But she is more radical than Architectonica here. The spirit is kind of the same. I don't know how many millionaires they have in Miami. I guess they have a significant number because these apartments cost a lot of money. And I see they build a lot of towers like this. The Westin Hotel in New York City, well, I guess it's very close to Times Square, and Times Square it is, you know, in the center of Manhattan, is this building here with lots of publicity around and the madness. Of course, this was before the pandemic. Yeah, I have been here many times, and yes, it used to be, you know, a very agitated and agitating place. And the building is celebrating, you know, commerce and capitalism and publicity, publicity, publicity. You can see, you know, everything is, you know, exalting the function of the media and selling and buying and selling and buying New York. And I don't know what this battle is here. But I think they managed to create a tower that you know is at home or was at home in that place at that time. I don't know how things are now in New York during the pandemic. Probably some of its exuberance mellowed down a little bit. But look what it's at the bottom of the building. Of course, this has not, I imagine this was not made by the architects, but they created the background for this, you know, cacophony of forms and colors and shapes and meanings. Yes, it's you know, El Capital del Mundo, as New York was used to be. I don't know if it still is. And it was the, you know, the heart of the urban jungle here. And the building is, you know, by accepting to be built, is saying yes to all of this. Johnny Depp. here at the bottom. Today we don't even have to work on a facade. It's not necessary. It's really not necessary to study a facade because anytime you can invite a firm, a company to put up a banner or something, and if that doesn't work, you invite ivy to grow on your building. So really, there is no reason any longer to study a facade. For what? I mean, that's an old conception about architecture. Now we have the invasion of publicity, of all kinds of banners that, I mean, you can see it everywhere, in every city of the world. And this building itself is some kind of, Las Vegas in New York, secret window. Look at Johnny Depp here, it's, you don't look at the building so much, you look at the Johnny Depp, handsome and interesting and intriguing man, an actor. Now we look at Hollywood, we look at images, at pictures. We are not so much interested any longer in serious tectonic work or whatever. It's all stage design in a way, and that's what Architectonica did here. And look at New York there. It's. I mean, can you imagine the amount of energy that went into just bringing light at night here? I mean, for the duration of the whole night, just in this part of the city. Forget about the whole city, which the whole city is like this. The city that never sleeps. Well, the pandemic complicated things dramatically, but this is how it used to be, and it's possible that if the pandemic goes away, things will continue in a similar way. Anyway, this building is by Architectonica. That's it, I think, yes. So thank you for being here today.